Welcome. I'm Dr. Erica Brooke from the University of Florida. In today's podcast, we spotlight a chapter from the Handbook of Virtual Exchange Across Disciplines, Building Global Citizens at Home, edited by Dr. Kelly Tzoumis and published by Springer Nature Press. We will be exploring the chapter titled Education for Sustainable Development Across Continents, Law and Sustainability Management Meet in the Virtual Classroom. Before we dive into the discussion, let's begin by hearing from our authors. Please introduce yourselves and share a bit about how you met.
Okay, thank you very much, Erica. So my name is Per Fors, and I work as an assistant professor in industrial engineering and management at Uppsala University in Sweden. And my research concerns the intersection between technology and sustainability broadly, but I'm mainly focusing on sustainable ICT. So one of the reasons why this even happened was that I realized that virtual exchange was a really good tool to enhance environmental sustainability in teaching, because that's kind of one of the creative ways you can use ICT for sustainability purposes. Isabel, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Erica, and thanks, Pierre. So very quickly, I'm a professor at the University of Tokyo, affiliated with the Organization for Programs on Environmental Sciences, which is an interdisciplinary program. I'm teaching Earth System Law and Governance, Critical Environmental Legal Thought, and also STS in the Anthropocene to students who are not specializing in law. My main research interest lies in law and the Anthropocene, understood as a new field of study. And I'm more specifically interested in examining how the legal profession engages with the Anthropocene through experiment. My most recent research project examined the opportunities and barriers to the development of climate crisis lawyering in Japan. And most recently, I decided to refocus my attention on the ethical aspects of the legal profession. Thomas?
Yes, really happy to be here. My name is Thomas Lennerfors. I'm a professor of industrial engineering and management at Uppsala University. And I'm also, similar to Per, really interested in like ethics and sustainability issues in industrial engineering and management. And my latest kind of project has been to write a basic textbook about the field. Okay. So, yes, so thanks a lot, Isabel, and really happy to be here. My name is Thomas Lennerfors. I'm a professor of industrial engineering and management at Uppsala University, and I'm really interested in studying ethical and sustainability aspects of this field. And recently I've been focused on developing and writing a textbook for undergraduate students, rewriting the field of industrial engineering and management and introducing ethics and sustainability already into basic courses about this field. I also want to say a little bit about the background of this course before we go into the kind of questions that this podcast will concern. So in 2015, I had the opportunity to go on a teaching sabbatical, which basically means that you leave your job for like 6 months and go to another university, not to just chill, but to teach. And I was really lucky to be able to go to University of Tokyo, where I was hosted by Professor Jonathan Woodward. During that time I taught a couple of courses. We also engaged in pedagogical development, and we grew fond of each other and kind of thought that this is really interesting, the conversations that we have. And I spoke about what we do in Uppsala, about, for example, promotion to distinguished teacher, different systems for valuing the teaching aspect of academic work. So we had a lot of discussions about that, and then we thought that towards the end of that sabbatical we thought that we should probably do something more together. It's a little bit sad that all kind of ends. So we thought that maybe we could do a course where we combine both students from University of Tokyo and Uppsala University, but also faculty from these two academic institutions. So we developed that course together, and this is the course that we're writing about in this chapter, which was later called Managing Sustainability in Global Industrial Companies. And it was developed as a kind of case-based course, so we didn't want lectures about theory, too much of that, but we wanted it to be like problem-based learning. So they would solve a range of students from different universities, put together, collaborate, and solve a range of cases. So I think, because we kind of just did it for fun, there was also no funding for this. So we had to do it like a little bit like bottom up. So we thought, how can we make this in a kind of inexpensive way? And their virtual exchange came up as a really good solution, because we cannot afford to fly people to Sweden or students to Japan. And of course, we were also interested, like Per, in these environmental issues. So I think that was kind of the starting point of it. And then we ran that course for one time. We had a lot of fun. Students were happy. And then we thought that we should integrate more competences. And then Johnny had a really interesting colleague, Isabelle Giroudou, who had a legal competence. So we asked Isabelle if you could join the course, and well, you happily said yes, and that is kind of the start of it. And then I'm no longer teaching in the course, but it has been taken over by Per, and I've seen how he has developed it further, and I think it looks pretty awesome at the moment.
That is great. Thank you for sharing. So to start the discussion, how did virtual exchange shape the subject matter of your course?
Yes, thanks, Eric. I think I can start discussing that a little bit, and Thomas and Isabel, you can of course interrupt me if you don't agree. But I think that there's a lot of things to this, of course, and the main thing is that when we first developed the course, the student cohort was quite small. We didn't have a lot of students in Uppsala at the time, and neither in Tokyo actually. The students were very few, and it allowed for this kind of open and problem-based learning, flipped classroom kind of philosophy, which when I came into the course, I think our student cohort grew to more than 100 students, and it became a little bit difficult to uphold this more informal or like loose structure. So we had to start structuring the course a bit more. But the main thing is that students at Uppsala University, or in our course at Uppsala University, they are all engineers. And engineers are great. We love engineers. Me and Thomas, we are engineers. But the thing with sustainability management, as I think most of this discussion will circle around, is that it is in essence a interdisciplinary subject. And we know a lot of things, a lot of central themes that are relevant within this domain, like innovation and management and technology development and all of that good jazz. We are quite good at teaching these things, but since it is an interdisciplinary subject where law, for example, is a really important aspect, and I think Isabel can maybe fill me out here a little bit later, we realize that me and Thomas, we are not specialized in many of these issues that are very central to the subject. So we need other competences as well to complement what we can do. So that's from our perspective, that's very very good. And it's not only about the faculty and the teachers, it's also about the student groups, because what we have seen as the cohort in Uppsala, the group grew a lot. We couldn't have all the groups collaborate through virtual exchange, so we basically moved the virtual exchange into like a module that was not mandatory for the students in Uppsala. Those who signed up could engage with it. So we had this voluntary system, and we still have that. And what we can see is that the students who actually engage in the virtual exchange, they write more interesting and nuanced reports, and they are able to discuss this subject more freely than the students who are only engineers. So in that sense, they learn from teachers from both disciplines, but they also learn a lot from each other in these multidisciplinary groups, I think. Isabel, what do you think about that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, from the University of Tokyo, this course was for students enrolled in the PEAK program in English at Komaba. And it's an undergraduate program. So Pierre, you did not mention, but the students taking this course are master students, right, in Uppsala University, and in the University of Tokyo, it's undergraduate students. So it was very interesting to have our students studying in English at the University of Tokyo at the undergraduate level, working with master students in Uppsala University, having a completely different background. Again, PEAK is an interdisciplinary program, but our students are interested in those who take this course are mostly interested in environmental policy, environmental law, environmental sciences as well. So the strong focus on the environmental aspects of contemporary challenges. And but we don't have any course specializing in sustainability and management, or focusing the examination on how to deal with these industrial sectors, innovation industrial sectors, ethical aspects regarding these big companies, and so forth. So for our students, obviously, it was a very interesting complementary component to add to the syllabus. And for us, it was really interesting to work with first Thomas and then Pierre, having these specialists and benefiting from their expertise and knowledge regarding sustainability in global companies. Another aspect is that in our program, in the PEAK program, of course, we have classes providing students with innovative teaching methods, including problem-based education, but that's not a priority. So for us, it was also extremely interesting to have our students working in close collaboration with other students in Uppsala University and working based on case studies, knowing that the overall orientation of this course is indeed problem-based or case-based learning. So from this perspective as well, it was a strong asset for our students. Thomas?
Maybe I can jump in here also, say a few words. I mean, I think virtual exchange is often kind of brought up as this kind of strengthening non-disciplinary competencies like cultural, cross-cultural environments or group work and teamwork. But I think this volume also has made us to reflect much more about how virtual exchange contributes to the very disciplines that we are in, and I think this is a strength of the whole kind of volume. But one thing that because I come from how do you say, business ethics or corporate social responsibility. I read a lot about that, and always in that domain, there's a kind of I don't know how law is maybe not treated in its full to its full potential, so to speak. So sometimes business ethics discussions, even engineering ethics discussions, they are trying to rescue ethics from law, so to speak. So you have to argue that law is not enough. So law just gives the foundation, but on top of that there is ethics, and law and ethics are disconnected domains. Maybe law is about compliance, but ethics is about reflection. So I think maybe I did not believe fully in that kind of way of characterizing the two different fields. But still, I think that when Isabel came into the course, we realized that there is so much that clear distinction between ethics and law is not correct, in a way. That many of the things that you discussed, Isabel, were very similar to what my ideas about corporate social responsibility, and maybe vice versa. So it was more that these domains were fundamentally connected in some way, that I think I personally understood more. And then I also explored this in kind of an engineering ethics context in a different chapter that we draw. Well, it is referred in this chapter, so you can have a look at that as well. But there we discuss a little bit when you try to merge two different disciplines and to think about a certain topic. For example, here, sustainability management. How does this sustainability management and law become kind of integrated in a course? Then we sketched out a couple of different ways in which this relation can be seen. So one is that it's completely disconnected. That you have. If Isabel gives a lecture, me as a different teacher, I wouldn't even be there. I don't care. You just deliver the lecture. Students will try to make sense of it, and that is the end of the interdisciplinary discussion. Then we sketched also another one, which is called one-sided engagement, where maybe say that Isabel, you're the main teacher of a course, and then you try to do your best to read up and integrate all the different other perspectives, other theoretical perspectives that have been presented by the other lecturers, while they don't care. They don't care about the totality of the course. And then we also sketched the third one, which is kind of these parallel perspectives that yeah, sure, law in our course, then law and sustainability management, they are both kind of valued as important perspectives. They are side by side, but still it's a bit of a rift between them. So students can do one sub-assignment about law, one about sustainability management. They go side by side. Maybe we are at the same lectures, but we position ourselves as experts in different domains, and maybe the bridge is still not fully articulated. And we have, of course, scrutinized our course, whether this is this where we are, or are we more towards the fourth step, which we also sketch in this chapter, which is the more integrated approach, where we we discuss the relationship between sustainability management and law, try to find the commonalities, differences, ask students to reflect on the connections between the domains. And I think the integration is maybe very beneficial. That is the most developed in our theoretical framework, but it's also difficult. It requires a lot of investment and a lot of effort. So I think our chapter is a little bit about how we can maybe, if we are in parallel perspectives, who knows if we are, but how can we take a step towards integration? And even because that would definitely strengthen the disciplinary teaching of this domain. Yes, but I think that was all.
Yeah, maybe a final word, if I may jump in, because it's very interesting. It's really, thanks, Thomas, and it's really all about the chapter. At the same time, it's really an ongoing discussion. It's an ongoing endeavor. So the chapter tried to reflect quite in depth on the steps that have been taken so far, but it also opens up the discussion. And in a sense, it shows the kind of direction that we more convincingly from now on will take. That's one thing. And another thing is that in my institution, at least in my program in particular, we are very fond about talking in terms of interdisciplinarity. We promote the program based on interdisciplinarity and so forth, but we don't really embed in the interdisciplinary institutionally. I mean, we have many different classes in one program, so it's not really interdisciplinary. It's more interdisciplinarity. It's more multidisciplinarity, and we don't really have any chance to engage with our colleagues or to co-teach one course. While our students are very interested in having this experience to be co-taught, if I, and this course gave me this chance. I mean, for the first time to get engaged in this type of collaboration, which is truly an attempt to embody and to practice interdisciplinarity. And for me professionally, if I may add, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so Eric, I know that you have more questions, but I will jump in anyway and say that I will tie back a little bit to Thomas' discussion about business ethics, and we are talking mainly about corporate social responsibility in this paper. And I think specifically for corporate social responsibility, there has been an ongoing debate for some time now that the boundaries between what is CSR and what the law demands is blurred, like there are no clear boundaries. And I mean, I think I can agree that that has been the case for a long time, but especially right now in the European Union, especially, we can see that these boundaries are extremely blurred at the moment with a lot of legal frameworks and policy frameworks and regulations that are coming in to steer how CSR should be implemented and reported on and so on. With CSRD, for example, a corporate social responsibility reporting directive, with like the circular economy action plan and the eco design directive and so on. All of these aspects that previously has been seen more or less as voluntary things that we can do for goodwill or like philanthropy and so on, they are more strictly regulated how you should report on things and so on. So it's extremely important right now that our students from our perspective, they are, some of them at least, becoming managers in industrial and global companies, and they need to be aware of these things. But we don't really have the we don't have the competence. I mean, obviously we can do it in like the disconnected approach as Thomas was talking about, that we can provide some insights into these regulatory frameworks and so on, but we can't really reflect on them to the same extent as we can when we are in dialogue with Isabel and her students. So I think that's also important to emphasize. I think that's from the perspective of the European perspective. I think it's different in the US, for example, with a lot of these things being rolled back at the moment. But you know, it's an ongoing thing. So we'll see what happens in the future.
And you kind of hit on some of this, you all, in your responses to the first question. But in looking back, what would have been missing from your teaching? Well, let me scrap that question and start over again. All right. So some of you have already mentioned this in your responses to the first question, but in looking back, what would have been missing from your teaching, your discipline, if virtual exchange had not been included?
Okay.
Yes, I think we have touched upon a lot of things that would have been missing, actually. And I think we reflect on this in the chapter too, that obviously most of these things would have been, you know, theoretically possible, at least, even without virtual exchange. I think, you know, we have a faculty of law in Uppsala University, and there could have been a possibility to collaborate with that faculty in a similar way. But I think we have all reached the conclusion that while it is theoretically possible, it wouldn't be practically possible. I think, as Thomas said in the beginning of this podcast, that this is started off like a very informal endeavor without any resources needed and so on. And I think if we would have set up this course in a collaboration between us and a faculty, like in a program in Uppsala, it wouldn't have been possible to find a similar course that we could collaborate in, first of all, and then that would have been more. It has to be set up more formally then, I would say, and it's very difficult to find people that you can collaborate with because of that. There has to be a good match in syllabus and so on, and that hasn't really been the case for us, at least. So I think that it would have been theoretically possible to do this without virtual exchange, but not practically. What do you
Thomas?
think, Isabel?
Okay.
Or
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's also Japan, right? It's a collaboration with Japan. So Japan, I guess, has its own attraction, right? And I guess that for my colleagues, for you, Pierre and Thomas, this is also something that counts in. So to have this collaboration with colleagues based in Japan. We can think about many different institutional reasons. But again, you point out a very important point. We developed this collaboration, so it's not really new. It has its own history, and initially it was really thanks to this. I mean, specific relationship existing between Thomas and one of my colleagues, who has a background in chemistry, so still a completely different background. And it was this synergy and relationship which convincingly helped to launch a collaboration in the longer run. So I think that this part of human relationships is also very interesting, and it's fully part of the development of the course. I would say that in Komaba, in the University of Tokyo, as far as I know, there is no similar class than similar course than the one offered by Uppsala University and conducted by Thomas and Per. So from this perspective only, our students benefit a lot. I would also mention that in my class, I'm not teaching to law school students either. So the composition of my classroom is very mixed. I mean, with again, students having different background and educated from the liberal arts perspective, so taking many different classes and so forth. And of course, all my classes focus on the legal aspect, legal dimensions of environmental issues, but still, it's not the same kind of class that you could find, for example, in law school of the University of Tokyo. And so initially and potentially, my courses, I mean, make perfectly possible and desirable this kind of collaboration. And happily enough, it took place. So it helped my students to have a better understanding of how to envision an issue from a wide range of perspectives. Not only the kind of legal discussion that we already have, for example, based on critical approaches to environmental law, earth system law, and governance, but from, again, a broader perspective. And this broader perspective was precisely offered by the course proposed by our colleagues from Uppsala University.
Yes, I want to jump in and say one thing or comment on what you said, Isabel. And I think that there's a lot of students in Uppsala that many of their courses are conducted on campus, like very physical courses with lectures and seminars and so on. And students, obviously, they are very used to that. And maybe I think this is we haven't been able to prove this, but I think this is the case that this virtual exchange component make this course a more memorable experience for the students. And I think that's a very important thing that we try to take into account all the time when we're developing a course to make it memorable, because that's the point. They should learn something. They should remember what we have talked about during the course. And to be able to collaborate with people from all over the world, this is not something they do in other courses. So they will remember this course also because there is a virtual exchange component to it. Obviously, there are other components that we could have included to make it memorable, and we try to do that all the time. But this is a very important component, I think. What do you think, Thomas?
Yes, yes. I mean, I was really into this that you started with. That I mean, would all of this have been possible without the virtual component? And I agree that it would be more complicated. And the fact that if we would do it at Uppsala, or Isabel, if you would do it at Tokyo, then still there are limitations of the resources. There are maybe one legal scholar who we could work with. But if you take the another institution, or even the world as the kind of as the playground of finding resources, then there's so much more possibilities. Having said that, I of course I think none of us believe that this is kind of the perfect example of a kind of perfect engineered resource. You know, that okay, maybe Isabel, you are, maybe I think you are the best teacher in the world, but I'm not. So maybe if that would be the case, you know, that you would really pick the super duper stars from different places, maybe I wouldn't even be in this meeting, right? But here it's more that we start out, you know, from somewhere, and it's more like a bricolage, but that we cherish that. We see that there is some, we kind of like to talk to each other. It's fun to teach together, this kind of feeling that something fun is going on. And as Per, you also mentioned this memorable experience. And I think that I maybe taught some other courses that I myself as a teacher, I don't remember, I don't think about that course. But this is actually a kind of some kind of unique experience that we are building. And maybe I'm also thinking about this kind of, well, the scope of the book, that it's not, I mean, that we're not focusing on the kind of, you know, development of soft skills or intercultural competences, but more the disciplinary learning. But I think that maybe they strengthen each other in a way, that because of this, you know, the international students in Sweden work together with the international students in Japan, they realize, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of difference in, it's not that they come from different cultures or something, but it's a little bit different ways of doing stuff. You start to talk about your life, you experience the world in different ways, and so maybe they mostly see the kind of how do you say, the kind of soft skills development, but maybe we as teacher, we can still see that becomes the fertile ground for also increasing their knowledge in what we you know, in sustainability management and law, what we want to do. So I think maybe there is a bit of a connection between those kind of skill sets. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for such a thoughtful and engaging discussion. We look forward to diving deeper into your chapter. But before we sign off, we'd love to give you the opportunity to share any final words or reflections.
Okay, so maybe I can start then. I think that we have been doing a somewhat good job at actually reflecting about our course in different ways. I think that there is a lot of courses that just go on, and there are minor changes to the syllabus or the course content and the lectures and so on between every year. But I think that what we have developed here in our like small consortium of teachers in Tokyo and Uppsala, what we're trying to do is not only to to develop the course further, but also to reflect on the different components of the course. And in this chapter we're specifically focusing on the virtual exchange component, but we have also in the past written chapters and done conference presentations about other aspects of the course as well, mainly related to case-based learning and problem-based learning, flipped classroom, philosophy, and all of these things. So I think that this course is also has been fertile ground for reflection and pedagogical research that I haven't really experienced in the context of other courses. And I think it might have to do with the fact that we are in different faculties in different countries, and this is the way we collaborate. This is the way we reflect on the course and so on. And that has had a lot of very good effects.
Yeah, just a final word and very quickly, I think that it's an ongoing process, right? And as mentioned by Pierre, it's not the first time that we wrote about this course, but I think that this chapter is extremely timely. It was the perfect time to have this kind of reflection after not so many papers, but still after a few papers on this same course, to have finally a chapter really addressing the core, if not the ration, the core of this course. I mean, it's interdisciplinary dimension and what it really means and implies at this point of time, at this point of the development of the course was very interesting. So I'm very grateful to Pierre and for the invitation to contribute to this chapter, which again is extremely timely, at least from my perspective. Yeah.
And maybe my reflection would be that maybe this course and the way we are doing it, and also the reflections about that we have written in our chapter, is kind of a act of resistance, so to speak, to kind of all the cost cutting and downsizing that is going on at academic institutions, where we are kind of more and more pressed for time. And there of course the obvious thing that everybody is encouraged to do is just to cut out stuff, streamline, make digital, like very multiple choice exams and so on. And of course, we have gone a little bit the opposite direction to actually try to, well, can we keep some of the real academia still with the collaboration? Sure, it takes a little bit more time. Maybe some of us are working 1 hour extra 1 week or several hours extra, but still, I think that I think it is worth it. That to kind of try to nurture this kind of true academic work in a difficult situation.
That concludes our discussion. Thank you to the authors for your final thoughts, and thank you for listening.